Dr. Vampire and his furry friends. I suppose I'm safe here, for now. I live in a small apartment in the northeast of Zocalo, one of the oldest neighborhoods in Mexico City. Like any foreigner, I was initially struck by how much this country resembles Spain at first glance. Yet it's utterly different. In Madrid, the streets are a labyrinth, pulling you deeper toward a hidden core that jealously guards its dull secrets. That habit of concealing the mundane surely comes from the Moors. But Mexico City's streets are a labyrinth turned inside out. They lead outward to the mountains, to open spaces, to revelations that remain forever elusive. Mexico City seems to hide nothing, yet everything about it is unfathomable. That's how it was with the indigenous peoples of the past, and so it remains today. Their self-defense lies in apparent openness, like the transparent protection of a sea anemone. In my view, this is a subtle strategy. One that works anywhere, anytime. I'm adopting the wisdom born in Tenochtitlan or Tlaxcala. I hide nothing, and in doing so, manage to conceal everything. How often I've envied the petty thief who only needs to stash away stolen scraps. Some of us aren't so lucky. Our secrets can't be tucked into a pocket or a closet. They won't fit in a living room or be buried in a backyard. Gilles de Rais needed a secret graveyard, nearly the size of Père Lachaise. My needs are more modest, though not by much. I'm not a sociable man. My dream is a little house in the wilderness, on the barren slopes of Iztaccíhuatl, miles from any human dwelling. But living in such a place would be sheer madness. The police have a simple logic. If you keep to yourself, you must have something to hide. A notion not new, but almost always correct. Oh, the Mexican police. So polite, yet so ruthless. So suspicious of every foreigner, and so often right. They'd find an excuse to search my secluded home, and the truth would come out at once. Fodder for the newspapers to trumpet for 3 days straight. I've avoided all this, at least for now, by choosing my current home. Even Garcia, the most zealous cop in the neighborhood, can't imagine that in this cramped, open-to-all-eyes apartment, I conduct secret, unholy monstrous experiments. Monstrous experiments. So the rumors go. My front door is usually left ajar. When the grocers deliver my supplies, I invite them in. They never accept. Modesty and restraint are in their blood. But just in case, I always offer. My place has 3 rooms, a small enfilade. You enter through the kitchen, then comes the study, and beyond that, the bedroom. I never fully close any door. Perhaps I overdo it, trying to prove how openly I live. Because if someone were to walk straight to the bedroom, fling open the door, and peer inside, I'd probably have to end it all. So far, none of my visitors have ventured past the kitchen. They must be afraid of me, and why not? I'm afraid of myself. My work forces me into a terribly inconvenient lifestyle. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner all have to be at home. I'm a dreadful cook. Even the greasiest diner in the neighborhood serves better food than the inedible slop I make for myself. Worse still, the street vendors' overcooked junk tastes better than my culinary disasters. And what's even more aggravating, I have to come up with the most absurd excuses for why I always eat at home. Doctor's orders, I tell the neighbors. No spicy food for me. No peppers. No tomato sauce. Not even salt. It's because of a rare liver condition. Where did I pick it up? Oh, years ago in Jakarta, from some bad meat. You might think spinning such tales is easy, but for me, keeping all the details straight is no small feat. Every liar is doomed to live by the hateful, unnatural law of consistency. You play your role, and it becomes your torment, your punishment. The neighbors swallowed my clumsy explanations without a hitch. Is there some inconsistency in my story? Well, life's full of those, they figure, fancying themselves infallible judges of truth, when really they base everything on what sounds plausible. Still, they can't help but sense the monster in me. Eduardo, the butcher, once said, "You know, doctor, they say vampires can't eat salted food. Maybe you're a vampire, huh?" Where did he get that idea? Probably from movies or comic books. I've noticed old women making warding signs when I pass by, protecting themselves from the evil eye. I've heard kids whispering behind my back, "Dr. Vampire, Dr. Vampire," old women and children. They're the keepers of this people's meager wisdom. And butchers apparently know a thing or two as well. I'm no doctor, and I'm no vampire, yet the old women and children are absolutely right to fear me. Luckily, no one listens to them, so I keep eating in my kitchen, buying young lamb, kid, piglet, rabbit, beef, veal, chicken, occasionally some game. It's the only way to bring enough meat into the house to feed my beasts. Lately, someone else has started eyeing me with suspicion. Unfortunately, it's none other than Diego Juan Garcia, the local cop. Garcia is stocky, broad-faced, cautious, a model officer. Here in Zocalo, he's known as incorruptible, a sort of Aztec Cato, though not quite as stern. According to the vegetable seller, who, by the way, seems to have a crush on me, Garcia thinks I'm probably a German, a war criminal who slipped through the cracks. What a wild guess. It's wrong in the details, yet his instincts aren't far off. He's convinced he's nailed it. He'd have already taken action if not for my neighbor's support. The cobbler, the butcher, the shoeshine boy, and especially the vegetable seller, they're all in my corner. They've got that practical, everyday common sense and believe I'm exactly what I seem to be. They tease Garcia, "Can't you see? This foreigner's quiet, good-natured, just a quirky scholar. He's harmless." The irony is, that's wrong in the details too, but their instincts aren't entirely mistaken either. My priceless neighbors call me doctor, sometimes even professor. They've bestowed these lofty titles on me as if they were obvious, based on my appearance alone. I never sought such honors, but I haven't rejected them either. Senor Doctor is just another mask to hide behind. And why shouldn't they take me for a scholar? My forehead is absurdly high from receding hairlines. My temples and crown are streaked with gray, and my stern, square face is etched with wrinkles. Plus, my accent screams European as I carefully construct my Spanish sentences. And then there are my gold-rimmed glasses. Who else could I be but a scholar? And from where else if not Germany? Such a title demands a certain profession, so I pass myself off as a university professor. I'm supposedly on a long sabbatical, writing a book about the Toltecs, aiming to prove their culture is linked to the Incas. Yes, gentlemen, I say, my book will stir things up in Bonn and Heidelberg. Some established authorities will be shaken. Certain folks will no doubt call me a fantasist, a maniac. You see, my theory could upend everything we know about pre-Columbian America. I crafted this persona before I even set foot in Mexico. I read Stevens, Prescott, Vaillant, Alfonso Caso. I even copied nearly a third of Dreyer's dissertation on cultural cross-pollination. He tried to link the Maya and Toltecs, and his critics tore him apart. So, I've got about 80 handwritten pages I can pass off as my own work. This unfinished manuscript justifies my presence in Mexico. Anyone can glance at the wisdom-filled pages scattered across my desk and see exactly what kind of man I am. I thought that would be enough. But I didn't account for how my role would affect those around me. Senor Ortega, the grocer, is also interested in pre-Columbian history and, to my dismay, knows quite a bit about it. Senor Andrade, the barber, hails from a small town just 5 miles from the ruins of Teotihuacan. And little Jorge Silverio, the shoeshine boy, whose mother works at a diner, dreams of attending a prestigious university and humbly asks if I could put in a good word for him in Bonn. I'm a victim of my neighbors' hopes and expectations. I've become the professor they imagine, not the one I intended. Thanks to them, I spend long hours at the National Museum of Anthropology, waste entire days exploring Teotihuacan, Tula, Xochicalco. My neighbors force me to toil endlessly at my research, and I'm actually becoming what I pretended to be, a scholar, brimming with vast knowledge and a touch of madness. I've embraced this role so fully that it's inseparable from me. It's transformed me. I genuinely believe there might be a connection between the Incas and Toltecs. I have undeniable proof. I'm seriously considering publishing my findings and discoveries. All this is quite exhausting and entirely inconvenient. Last month, I got quite a scare. Senora Elvira Macias, my landlady, stopped me on the street and demanded I get rid of my dog. But I don't have a dog, senora. I beg your pardon, senor, but you do have a dog. Last night, it was whining and scratching at the door. I heard it myself. My late husband never allowed dogs in the house. That was his rule, and I always uphold it. Dear senora, you're mistaken. I assure you. And then, out of nowhere, Garcia appeared, inevitable as death itself, in his crisp khaki uniform, puffing up on his bicycle, eavesdropping on our conversation. Something scratching, senora? Termites? Cockroaches? He asked. She shook her head. Not that kind of sound. Rats, then. I hate to tell you, but your building's full of them. I know exactly what rats sound like, Senora Elvira retorted with deep, unshakable conviction. This was different. Only a dog scratches like that, and it came from your rooms. I've told you, my rule is strict. No animals in the house. Garcia's eyes never left me, and in his gaze, I saw reflections of all my supposed crimes in Dachau, Bergen-Belsen, Theresienstadt. I wanted to tell him he was wrong, that I wasn't a perpetrator but a victim, that I spent the war years behind barbed wire in a camp on Java, but I knew it wouldn't matter. My crimes against humanity are no fiction, just not the ones Garcia suspects, not horrors from a year ago, but those yet to come a year from now. Maybe in that moment I would have confessed everything, but Senora Elvira turned to Garcia and said, Well, what are you going to do? He's keeping a dog in there, maybe two, God knows what other creatures he's got. What are you going to do? Garcia was silent, his face as still as the stone mask of Tlaloc in the Cholula Museum. So I fell back on my usual trick of transparent self-defense, which had kept my secret safe so far. I gritted my teeth, flared my nostrils, and did my best to play the furious Spaniard. Dogs! I roared. I'll show you dogs. Come search my rooms. I'll pay 100 pesos for every dog you find. 200 for every pedigree mutt. Go on, Garcia. Call your friends, your neighbors. Maybe I've got a horse in there too, huh? Maybe a pig? Call the witnesses. Call the reporters. Let them describe my menagerie in detail. You're getting worked up over nothing, Garcia said coolly. I'll stop getting worked up when we're done with these dogs, I shouted. Come on, senora, step inside, look under the bed, see if you find whatever you think you heard. And when you're done, kindly return what's left of this month's rent, plus my deposit, and I'll move my invisible dogs to another apartment. Garcia gave me a strange look. He's probably seen plenty of loudmouths in his time. They say that's how certain criminals behave, always ready to pick a fight. All right, let's go take a look, he said to Senora Elvira, and then, to my astonishment, did I hear right? She declared, No, no. I trust a gentleman's word. She turned and walked away. I was about to tell Garcia, for the sake of the performance, that if he still had doubts, he could inspect my apartment himself. Luckily, I bit my tongue in time. Garcia doesn't care about propriety. He wouldn't hesitate to look foolish. I'm tired, I said. I'm going to lie down. And that was that. This time I locked the front door. It had been a close call. While we were arguing, one of the poor creatures had chewed through the strap holding it, escaped to the kitchen, and died there on the floor. I disposed of the body the usual way. Fed it to the others. After that, I doubled my precautions. I bought a radio to drown out the faint noises my beasts make. I put thick mats under their cages. And I masked the smells with strong tobacco. Burning incense would have been too bold, too cliché. What a strange irony, suspecting me of keeping dogs. Dogs are my worst enemies. They know what I'm up to. They've always been humanity's loyal allies, traitors to the animal world, just as I'm a traitor to humankind. If dogs could talk, they'd run straight to the police and expose me. When the battle with humanity finally breaks out, dogs will share their master's fate. stand or fall with them. A flicker of cautious hope. The latest litter's young ones show promise. Out of 12, 4 survived. Sleek, strong, clever. But they lack ferocity. It seems the trait didn't pass down through their genes. They even seem fond of me, like dogs. But, of course, future generations can gradually fix that. Humanity holds grim legends of hybrids born from crossing different species. Think of the chimera, the griffin, the sphinx. To me, these terrifying visions of the ancient world are like memories of the future, just as Garcia senses crimes I've yet to commit. Pliny and Diodorus wrote of monstrous half-camel, half-ostriches, half-lion, half-eagles, creatures born of horses and dragons or tigers. What would those ancient chroniclers think of a wolverine-rat hybrid? What would a modern biologist make of such a marvel? Today's scientists would never believe such a hybrid is possible, even when my heraldic beasts overrun cities and villages. No rational person would accept a creature the size of a wolf, as ferocious and cunning as a wolverine, yet as social, adaptable, and prolific as a rat. A die-hard rationalist would deny such an outlandish fiction even as the beast sank its teeth into their throat. And they'd be almost right. Such a hybrid was always impossible, until I created it last year. Secrecy, born of necessity, sometimes becomes a habit. Even in this diary, where I meant to lay everything bare, I've yet to explain why I decided to breed these monsters and what I'm preparing them for. They'll start their work in about 3 months, early July. By then, the locals will notice that the slums on the outskirts of Zocalo are crawling with strange animals. Descriptions will be vague and inconsistent, but everyone will agree. These creatures are large, ferocious, and elusive. The authorities will be alerted, and brief mentions will appear in the papers. At first, the attacks will be blamed on wolves or feral dogs, though these intruders look nothing like canines. They'll try to exterminate them with conventional methods, to no avail. The mysterious creatures will spread across the capital, infiltrating wealthy suburbs like Pedregal and Coyoacán. By then, it'll be clear they're omnivorous, like humans. And suspicions will arise, rightly so, that they multiply at an alarming rate. Only later will people realize how intelligent they are. Military units will be deployed to combat the invasion, but it'll be futile. Planes will buzz over fields and villages, but what can they bomb? These creatures aren't targets for ordinary weapons. They don't travel in packs. They lurk in corners, under sofas, in closets, always nearby, yet slipping out of sight. Poison? They eat whatever you throw at them. By August, people will be powerless to change the course of events. Mexico City will be under military control, but it's a hollow gesture. Hordes of beasts will have overrun Toluca, Ixtapan, Tepalchingo, Cuernavaca, and reports will say they've reached San Luis Potosi, Oaxaca, and Veracruz. Scientists will convene. Drastic measures will be proposed. Experts will flock to Mexico from around the world. The creatures hold no meetings, issue no manifestos. They simply breed and spread, reaching north to Durango and south to Villahermosa. The United States will close its borders, another symbolic act. The beasts will hit Piedras Negras, cross into Eagle Pass without asking, appear uninvited in El Paso, Laredo, Brownsville. Like a whirlwind, they'll sweep through plains and deserts. Like a tidal wave, they'll flood cities. These are Dr. Vampire's furry friends, and they're here to stay. Finally, humanity will realize the challenge isn't to destroy these mysterious creatures. No, the challenge is to keep them from destroying us. I have no doubt it's possible. But it'll take the combined effort and ingenuity of all humankind. That's what I aim to achieve by breeding these monsters. You see, something must be done. I created my beasts as a counterbalance, a force to restrain the runaway machine that is humanity, which, in its madness, is destroying itself and our planet. After all, what right does humanity have to wipe out species it deems inconvenient? Must every living thing on Earth either serve humanity's poorly thought-out plans or perish? Doesn't every species, every form of life, have an undeniable, inalienable right to exist? Though I've resorted to extreme measures, they're not without benefit to humankind. No one will worry about hydrogen bombs, biological warfare, deforestation, polluted rivers, or the greenhouse effect anymore. One fine morning, all those fears will seem like distant history. Humanity will once again depend on nature. It'll remain the only intelligent predator, but from now on, it'll be subject to the restraining, limiting forces it's dodged for so long. Humanity will keep the freedom it values most. It'll still be free to kill. It just won't be able to eradicate entirely. Pneumonia, that great destroyer of hopes, killed my beasts. Yesterday, the last one raised its head and looked at me. Its large, pale eyes had dulled. It lifted a paw, extended its claws, and lightly scratched my hand. I couldn't hold back tears, because I realized the poor creature was trying to please me. It knew how desperately I wanted it to be ferocious, merciless, a scourge on humanity. The effort was too much. Those magnificent eyes closed. The beast shuddered faintly and died. Pneumonia explains it all, of course, but beyond that, they simply lacked the will to live. Ever since humans took over the earth, other species have lost their resilience. Enslaved raccoons still frolic in the thinning Adirondack forests, and enslaved lions sniff beer cans in Kruger Park. They, like everything else, exist only because we allow it, lingering in our domains like temporary tenants. And they know it. That's why it's hard to find vitality, endurance, or spirit in the animal world. Spirit belongs to the victors. With the death of my last beast, my own end has come. I'm too tired, too broken to start over. I'm bitter that I've failed humanity, bitter that I've failed the lions, ostriches, tigers, whales, all those facing extinction. But even more bitter that I've failed the sparrows, crows, rats, hyenas, the vermin, the scum that exist only for humans to destroy. My deepest sympathy has always been with the outcasts, the rejected, the worthless. I'm one of them. Just because they don't serve humanity, are they vermin? Don't all forms of life have a full, unrestricted right to exist? Must every creature on earth serve a single species, or be erased? There must be someone else out there who thinks and feels as I do. I beg them, carry on the fight I started, this solitary war against our kind. Fight them as you would, a raging wildfire. These pages are written for my imagined successor. As for me, recently, Garcia and some other official came to my apartment for a routine sanitary inspection. They found the bodies of several of my creatures, ones I hadn't yet disposed of. I was arrested, charged with animal cruelty and running an unlicensed slaughterhouse. I plan to plead guilty to all charges. The accusations are false, but in essence, they're absolutely just.